All right, so it's my favorite time of the year, the NCAA tournament. You know what, let's just jump right into this. And before we do that, actually, let me tell you, I do have a surprise Final Four team that I don't think too many people will have. And now let's jump into it. All right, South Regional. Virginia and University of Maryland, Baltimore County. That's what that stands for. I'm gonna go with Virginia. Now I gotta say, eventually a 16 seed has to be a 1 seed. And I'll tell you a little spoiler alert, blah, blah, blah. Little spoiler alert. This is the one year I hope a 16 seed actually beats a 1 seed. But another spoiler alert, I don't have it, but I actually hope it happens this year for one reason, which I'll bring up with you later. Creighton, Kansas State, I'm gonna go with Creighton. Kentucky and Davidson. I'm going to go with Kentucky. Davidson got in because they won the Atlantic 10 tournament. They beat Rhode Island, who was a regular season champ. And Davidson just snuck in. Arizona and Buffalo. I'm going to go with Zona, Arizona. Miami and Loyola Chicago. This is my first upset of the tournament. Tennessee and Wright State, another upset. Nevada and Texas, go with Texas and Mohamed Bamba. Ah la 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 Bamba. Ah la 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 Bamba. I cannot sing that song or I'll embarrass myself. Georgia State and Cincinnati. Not Georgia. Georgia didn't even get into the NIT. They chose not to get into the NIT. But here I'm gonna take the upset. You technically shouldn't pick a 15 over 2, but I'm gonna do it. I did it last year and it didn't work, but it didn't hurt me at the same time. I'm gonna pick Georgia State here because Cincinnati tends to not be a very good tournament team, and so I'm gonna pick Georgia State. Virginia and Creighton. I'm gonna go with the UVA right here, the #1 overall seed in this year's tournament. And now this is right here is a tough one. Kentucky or Arizona? I'm gonna go with Arizona because I feel like this might be Kentucky's weakest team. And Loyola, Chicago, Wright State. Right here we have an 11-14 matchup. I'm gonna go with Loyola of Chicago, who is now officially a Cinderella. Texas and Georgia State, I'm going to go with Texas to set up the 11-10 matchup. And so Virginia, Arizona, I'm going to go with Arizona. And I'm going to go with Texas, ending Loyola of Chicago's Cinderella run. And continuing the run of Mohamed Alalala Bamba. West Regional. We got a 16 seed matchup here between North Carolina Central and Texas Southern. I'm going to go with North Carolina Central. But they're going to lose to Xavier, so it really isn't going to matter if I get that one right or wrong. I'm going to go with Xavier. And then Mizzou, I'm going to pick Mizzou over Florida State. Mizzou gets Michael Porter Jr. back. He'd been out most of the season. He is a top NBA prospect. And I'm going to pick South Dakota State to beat Ohio State. And we got 2 SDSUs here. We got South Dakota State and San Diego State. Be really interesting if they face off each other, if they face off with each other. Bleh, bleh. All right, so I'm going to pick Greensboro to upset Gonzaga. Gonzaga lost the tournament final last year. Oh. And Gonzaga's going to get upset by Greensboro. I said that. I just had to fix the board. And then I'm going to pick San Diego State to beat Houston, the other SDSU. Whoop. I think my entire board might fall down. Then Michigan will kill Montana, I think. And it's too bad Steve Fisher isn't coaching San Diego State anymore, or he'd be facing off against his former team. I'm going to pick Providence over Texas A&M. And North Carolina over Lipscomb, who is in the tournament for the first time and is the only first-timer in this year's tournament. I'm going to pick Mizzou to beat Xavier. Xavier typically is in the 1 seed. And I think they're not used to being a 1 seed, and so their first time as a 1 seed, they're going to lose in the first weekend. South Dakota State's going to beat Greensboro. Greensboro. That's a 12-13 matchup right there. South Dakota State, another Cinderella team. Going to pick Michigan to beat my alma mater, San Diego State. And North Carolina to beat Providence. Mizzou and South Dakota State. South Dakota State's Cinderella run ends. And North Carolina will beat Michigan. Moving on. East Regional. I got another 16 seed matchup here between Long Island and Radford. We'll go with Long Island there. But it's not going to matter as they're going to lose to Villanova. I'm going to pick Alabama to beat Virginia Tech. Alabama's coached by Avery Johnson, former coach of the Dallas Mavericks. Got the Dallas Mavericks to the NBA Finals. He's going to get Alabama. He's gotten Alabama to the tournament already, and they're going to win their first game. So I got that happening. Maybe I'll get it wrong though. I tend to pick a lot of upsets because I think there's no way I'm ever going to pick a perfect bracket. Nobody's ever picked a perfect bracket. I think it's like a 1 in a million odds if you do that. Yeah, so that's why I pick a lot of upsets, because if I pick the upset and I get it right, it's better if I pick the favorite and get it right. There's more of a reward, if you know what I mean. And I really don't have too much to lose if I do try to pick an upset, because I know I'm not going to get a perfect bracket, and it's also unlikely if I ever do win one of these. So that's why I tend to pick a lot more upsets. Also, I'll never have an all number 1 Final Four. You'll never see me do that. In fact, you'll see me put a Final Four without any 1 seeds before I have long before I put an all number 1 Final Four. In fact, I'll never do that. It's only happened once ever, so. And I hope it doesn't happen again, but I'm going to pick Murray State to upset West Virginia. And I'm going to pick Wichita State to beat Marshall. That's Greg Marshall taking on Marshall. Greg Marshall's the coach of Wichita State. And we got another 11 seed matchup here between St. Bonaventure and UCLA. I'm going to pick UCLA to win that. I pick UCLA to beat Florida. It's kind of a risk for me to take them because I might actually get that one wrong, but what the heck. They tend to make, UCLA tends to do decent tournament, but not like what they used to back in the day under like John Wooden. And even under Ben Howland, they got to a Final Four under Ben Howland. And I'm going to pick Stephen F. Austin to upset Texas Tech. Arkansas and Butler, got to pick my Razorbacks for sure in that one. And Purdue and Cal State Fullerton, going to pick Purdue. All right, Nova and Alabama. I've doubted Nova many times in the tournament. I think I've doubted them ever since I picked them to win it all back in, I think, 2010, the year after they went to the Final Four. And the year after they went to the Final Four was Scotty Reynolds. And they lost in the second round. That was the first time my national championship pick, lost in the first weekend. And it was the only time that's ever happened until Michigan State a couple of years ago. But I'm going to pick them. I'm going to pick them to go to Sweet 16 this year. Wichita State's going to beat Murray State. I'm going to pick UCLA over Stephen F. Austin. And Arkansas with the upset over Purdue. Go Hogs. And Nova's run's going to end. Wichita State. And we got a 7-11 matchup right here. And I'm going to pick, oh, I forgot to mention we have another 11-14 right here. Of course, UCLA is not your typical 11 seed. And Arkansas is going to beat UCLA. That's a matchup of the rematch of the 1995 National Championship, which UCLA won, and Arkansas is going to win this time. Moving on. Okay. All right, finally the Midwest region. We got Kansas against Penn of the Ivy League. Now, I do like the Ivy League teams in the tournament. They tend to, put a little, thorn in the back. You know what I mean? And I could see Penn actually becoming the first 16 seed to be a 1 seed, but I'm not crazy enough to pick it this time. Excuse me. Now, I did one time pick a 16 to be a 1. That was Villanova, the year before they won the national title. And it didn't hurt me at all because they ended up losing the second round anyways. And a 16 will be the 1 someday. Not sure when that's going to happen because 16 seeds seem to be like lower conference teams, lower teams and lower conferences who just happen to win their tournament. Penn really doesn't deserve that because they actually had a pretty decent record. I think they're 23-9. That's like a pretty good record for a 16 seed. But we'll see what happens. I don't actually think it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be too surprised if it does. I'm going to pick Seton Hall over NC State. I'm going to pick Clemson over New Mexico State. Pick Auburn over Charleston. We got another 11 seed matchup here, which I'm going to pick Syracuse because Arizona State is struggling right now. But they're going to lose to TCU. Michigan State and Bucknell. I'm going to pick Michigan State. Now this is a tough one right here for me. Oklahoma and Rhode Island. I'm going to pick Rhode Island because Oklahoma is struggling. They have been struggling. They got a really great player in Trae Young, who's going to be a high NBA draft pick, but of late they've been struggling. And look at that. The sun's starting to go down and the shadows are starting to come out. And Duke's going to beat Iona, of course. Kansas will beat Seton Hall. Clemson will beat Auburn. TCU will beat Michigan State. And Duke will beat Rhode Island. And we're going to have a 1-2 matchup here. All right. Finally, the Final Four. Arizona is due for a Final Four appearance, so I'm going to pick them over Texas, even though they're being investigated by the NCAA. Sean Miller, the coach, was caught talking with star player DeAndre Ayton about, benefits or something like that. I actually hope they don't make it far, but they're due for a Final Four appearance. They're in the tournament, so I'm just going to go with it. North Carolina, last year's champs, are going to beat Mizzou. I do believe North Carolina can make another long run. And now, Wichita State and Arkansas. Okay. I mentioned earlier that I do have a surprise Final Four team. And you may be wondering what it is. Well, you know what? It is the Hogs. Woo pig suey all the way. Well, not all the way, as you'll see a little later, but hey, no, not too many people are going to have this Final Four team, but I am. We'll see what happens, though. I truly believe in it. Of course, I wouldn't be too surprised they lose to Wichita or even any team before them, or Purdue for that matter. But you know what? I got to do it. I had to do it this year. I do believe in Jalen Barford, Daryl Macon, and the youngster Daniel Gafford, who's who could end up leaving for the NBA after this season. But hopefully not. He's not going to be a first round pick, I don't think. He needs to be, develop. Still needs to put on some more weight. But he should be a pretty solid player. Now, Duke and Kansas. Now, I did mention that I will have a Final Four with no 1 seeds long before I have an all number 1 Final Four. Well, you know what? This is the year I have a Final Four without a 1 seed. Yeah. Had to do it this year. Saw the bracket, was like, yeah. Yeah, it's happened before. It's happened more often than, an all number 1 Final Four, which has only happened 1 time. And I decided to do it this year, take the risk. Anyways, moving on. Let's start off over here. Duke and Arkansas. Now, this is another rematch of the 1994 national title, which Arkansas beat Duke. The 40 Minutes of Hell Arkansas with Coach Nolan Richardson beat Duke. Arkansas is in the Final Four for the first time since '95 when they lost to UCLA in the national title game. Fortunately, I cannot pick Arkansas over Duke. Even though I would love to see that happen. I'd love to see them make a run. They are my team, and I'd love to see them make a run for the Final Four, but it's not going to happen. Now, we have a possible matchup here of North Carolina and Duke. 2 big-time rivals. Now, I honestly feel that's going to be too good to be true. In fact, I actually didn't mention this. We got 2 big-time rivals and then 2 U of A's. U of A and U of A. They're both called that. Here in California, though, the U of A is considered, if you say the U of A, they probably think, it's the University of Arizona. But to me, the U of A is the University of Arkansas. And because I feel that North Carolina Duke would be too good to be true matchup for the national title game, I'm pick Arizona. And now, I'm going to tell you this. I'd hate to see this to be the national title game, but I have to do it. I don't like Duke. Arizona's gotten in trouble this year. I'm going to pick Duke to win it all. Unfortunately, I don't like them, and I got to make it up to those Duke fans who were pissed off with me when I said they were going to lose to Troy in the first round. But hey, you guys ended up losing in the second round, so it really didn't matter. It did not hurt my bracket at all. Duke's my national title pick. Like, subscribe, comment. My Final Four team was Arizona, North Carolina, Arkansas, Duke, U of A, Carolina team. And I have Duke winning it all over Arizona. All right. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.